The following program, The Lightning Strike, is sponsored by Mohammed Faheem, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, Chicago, and welcome to the Lightning Strike from all over the world. You can listen to us live on WCPT 820 AM and also on the heartlandsignal.com website or the WCPT Facebook page. Plenty of things to discuss again today, folks. The world is going crazy as we know it, and it is happening like every single day. And to be silent is to be complicit, and we are not going to be complicit, and we are not going to stay silent, okay? If you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. Let me repeat the number, 773-763-9278. Michael, you had already called in, wanting to join the conversation today, but we are not going to discuss ranked choice voting in the beginning. And if you don't mind calling back later on during the show, we would definitely want to take you on. Today we got some very important things to discuss, folks. The continuing carnage in Gaza and the West Bank. And why are we not saying something over here? Bernie Sanders tried to get something done in the Senate, and a number of Congress people and senators are still resisting, calling for a ceasefire or calling for an arms embargo to Israel. Our money, our tax dollars, is being continuously spent to kill innocent people. And we're going to name names. We're going to name names. We have the receipts. And we are going to also discuss what can we do individually at our level to hold our elected representatives accountable. Joining me in the conversation today would be Read Bible and Dr. Sheila White. Maaria Mozaffar would be joining in. Congresswoman Marie Newman would be joining in. Also, Democratic Party strategist Mark Mansour would be joining in from Washington. Also joining me would be Ray Hanania, prominent Arab journalist and radio personality. So a lot of things to discuss today, folks, and you are more than welcome to join the conversation. You can call in or you can text on the number, and we will try to read out your impressions. 773-763-9278 is the program number to call in. So as of August now, today, this month, approximately 147 out of the 193 United Nations member states have officially recognized the state of Palestine. In recent weeks, several major Western countries, including France, the United Kingdom, Canada, Malta, and Portugal, have announced they will formally recognize Palestine at the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. Now, this represents a significant shift, as these are among the first G7 and NATO countries to make such announcements. And what does our president do? Our president, Taco, threatens Canada with a 35% tariff for taking this step. Folks, what has this guy been up to? What has he done that the tail continues to wag the dog? What does Israel have on our president? That is something that I would like to know, and I would love to have someone go in and get that investigation going. What happens is, anytime that this guy is investigated, he turns around on the investigator. Now, he threatens everyone all over the world, and this is not what America is supposed to be. So, The cohort of newly announced recognitions, including, like I said, France, UK, Canada, Malta, and Portugal. France and UK have stated that their recognition is contingent upon developments in the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations or reforms within the Palestinian Authority. I also wanted to point out something today. Why do we continue to use the term the Middle East? There is no such thing as the Middle East. That is a colonial term that was created by the British to identify that region of the world, which was kind of like middle from where? From Britain. They even called India as the Far East. So if that region of the world is the Middle East and India is the Far East, then what are we, Far West? Let us call it what it is. It is the Arabian Peninsula, or, it is Africa, Arabia. Give it the proper name. Reed, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mohammed. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good
I
morning,
could hear
buddy.
you chuckle. I think, Ray, are you online with us today?
Yes, I am, buddy. I'm myself.
Okay, good morning. So, folks, I want to bring in Ray Hanania into the... Yeah. I want to bring in Ray Hanania into the conversation. And if you've got your radio on, please turn it down or turn it off and just be on the phone because we get a lot of feedback coming in. Ray, good morning.
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Mohammed.
I'm doing good. So I still hear a feedback coming in when you come on the air, Ray. So maybe there's your radio is on or something. But this is what is happening, folks.
I don't think so.
Even
Sorry.
as recently as yesterday, Israel continues to kill innocent people in the Gaza region. I mean, they go in with this concept that, we are going to get Hamas. We're going to get Hamas. How long has it been since they have been saying that? How long can we allow a foreign country to dominate American politics and American policies? That is a question that we really have to answer, folks. And we are going to be held accountable, if not in this life, in the next life, for what we are doing to our country. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back on the other side of the break with more conversations. And then we are going to get into what the heck is happening with the Democratic Party.
Calling all residential and commercial property owners. If you're like me, you're sick and tired of paying high electric bills, which, by the way, are on the rise. You're also probably unaware of the federal, state, and utility incentives that you qualify for. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. Again, 630-785-0031. Give Greenlight a call for a no-cost, no-obligation energy assessment, and we'll show you which federal, state, and utility incentives you qualify for. Again, 630-785-0031. Give us a call, 630-785-0031.
Injured in an accident? Ticketed for DUI or traffic violations? You need Riz Injury Law on your side. Attorney Riz Ali fights for you, specializing in auto accidents, medical malpractice, slip and falls, traffic tickets, DUI and DWI. Call 312-546-5109 now. That's 312-546-5109. One more time, 312-546-5109. Your story matters, and Riz Injury Law will fight to make sure you get justice. Visit RizInjuryLaw.com or stop by 35 East Wacker Drive, Suite 650 in Chicago, Illinois, 60601. That's Riz Injury Law. Justice, compensation, results. Call 312-546-5109.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike, and I would like to dive right in with Ray Hanania, and then we'll go on with Mark Mansour and Marie Newman, and the rest of the team to discuss what's happening with the Democratic Party. Ray, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mohammed.
So I saw the alert that you sent out, Ray. How long can this thing continue, man?
Yeah, see, as long as nobody's covering it, it's going to continue forever. The big problem is since the October 7 attack by Hamas, 5 American Palestinians have been murdered in the West Bank, and we barely hear or read anything about that. But if you're an American and you serve in the Israeli military and you get taken hostage, and you don't even serve in the U.S. military, you become a major story in this country. And I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on those Americans. I'm saying we should be looking at the American Palestinians who are being killed. 5 just in the, since, the October 7th. It's just horrible. It's been terrible. And the most recent 2 of them just in the month of July. All American, 20-year-old kid from Florida, beaten up and attacked by settlers just north of Ramallah. The Israeli Defense Forces.
Ray, I want to jump in. Let's call a spade a spade. These are not settlers. These are terrorists out there who are terrorizing the indigenous people.
I agree. These settlers have taken land, and then they go into areas and they cause trouble. And this one boy, Safola Musalat, who is from Florida, was beaten so badly he couldn't move, but the Israeli forces refused to allow an ambulance to reach him for 3 hours. When they finally allowed the ambulance to reach him, the kid died in the ambulance. And then 2 weeks later, another Palestinian from Chicago, Khamis Ayad, 40 years old. A home is set on fire by the settlers. The cars are set on fire. He goes in the home to save some people. He dies from the smoke, and nothing happens. It's terrible. And then in February, this boy, Mohammed Ibrahim, 15 years old, the Israeli soldiers, 20 of them masked and with guns in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., bust down the door of his home in his little village. They grab him. They take him away, and they don't even tell the parents what he did or where he's been. They put him in Megiddo prison. He's been in there for 6 months now. Nobody from his family has been able to talk to him. No change of clothes. And the U.S. Embassy is like, yeah, we've checked on him. He's very sick, but we'll get back to you. It's like nobody cares.
And that is the tragedy, folks. And let's not forget that it's our money and our reputation, our morals that are at risk around the world. The country that we live in is supposed to be the leader of the world as far as morals and morality is concerned. And what the heck is happening? Let me also give you something, Ray. When Bernie Sanders put in this effort now to block arms sales to Israel, a majority of the Democratic senators voted with the Republicans. But I also want to give a shout out now to the senators who voted yes to block those illegal arms sales to Israel. So, quick read, folks, bear with me. Senator Sanders, Senator Alsobrooks, Senator Baldwin, Senator Blunt, Senator Duckworth, Senator Durbin, thank you, both senators from Illinois. Heinrich, Senator Hirono, Senator Kane, Senator King, Senator Kim, Klobuchar, Senator Lujan, Senator Markey, Senator Merkley, Senator Murphy, Senator Murray, Senator Ossoff, Senator Reed, Senator Schatz, Senator Shaheen, Senator Smith, Senator Van Hollen, Senator Warnock, Senator Warren, Senator Welch, and Senator Whitehouse. These are the ones who voted to block the illegal arms sales to Israel. Let's not forget, folks, it is illegal. And the other Democratic senators who voted with the Republicans, yeah, your time is going to come, folks. Your time is going to come. We are going to hold you accountable. Ray, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Always a pleasure talking with you. And, folks, if you want to join the conversation, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. You are tuned in to the Lightning Strike Talk Radio. We come in every Sunday morning from 9 to 10. Then you can follow us online on our website also, which is tlschicago.com. And I would like to pivot around now and welcome the rest of the panel to the show. Congresswoman Marie Newman joining us, our co-host Read Bible joining us, and also we got Mark Mansour, Democratic Party strategist, joining us from Washington. We will continue the conversation, and we'll go right now to Mark Mansour. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Mohammed.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I got your friend Marie Newman joining us today, Mark.
I'm thrilled to have Marie on the show, too.
Hey, Marie, good morning.
Good morning to everyone.
Well, thank you for joining. Reed, good morning. If you could please come into the conversation.
I am here, Mohammed. Good morning to Mark and Marie and Chicagoland.
Okay, wonderful. Mark, if you don't mind giving a little introduction about yourself, and we will take a break after the introduction and come back with the full segment. And also, legislative attorney Maaria Mozaffar would be joining us for her segment, as usual, of breaking the echo chamber. So, Mark, if you could please introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. I'm Mark Mansour. I'm an attorney in Washington, D.C., and I've been a Democratic activist for 3 decades now. And I've raised money for Democrats. I've campaigned for Democrats. I've helped run campaigns. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about what the Democratic Party is and should be. And I have some theories, and I'll share those when we have a chance to talk.
Absolutely. So we'll take a quick break, folks, and we'll be back on the other side of the break with a very powerful panel discussion on the Democratic Party, where it is headed, and how can we steer it back into helping the people and being the party of the people that it should be. We'll be right back after this.
Injured in an accident? Ticketed for DUI or traffic violations? You need Riz Injury Law on your side. Attorney Riz Ali fights for you, specializing in auto accidents, medical malpractice, slip and falls, traffic tickets, DUI and DWI. Call 312-546-5109 now. That's 312-546-5109. One more time, 312-546-5109. Your story matters, and Riz Injury Law will fight to make sure you get justice. Visit rizinjurylaw.com or stop by 35 East Wacker Drive, Suite 650 in Chicago, Illinois, 60601. That's Riz Injury Law. Justice, compensation, results. Call 312-546-5109.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike. Mohammed Faheem here. We come every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk radio station. Mark and Marie, take the ball and run with it, please. What the heck is happening with the Democratic Party, Mark?
I have a theory called the Iron Triangle, and the triangle is this. There are three sides to it. The first side is the donors. The donors are an interesting group. Most of them are socially consistent with democratic ideals. From the economic standpoint, they're completely different. They're into making money and keeping money, and that means they don't like Medicare for all. They don't like some of the other components of the Democratic platform because they're far too liberal for their purposes. So they represent a very difficult problem because a lot of the money that the Democratic Party takes in is from donors and large donors. The second side of the triangle is the consultants. The consultants take in a lot of money, and a lot of that money is produced by, you guessed it, the donors. They're not going to deviate from the plan. Most of them are centrists, to the extent that means anything anymore. And their philosophy is very much to stick with the plan and not to spend a lot of time on expanding the base, but rather on appealing to Democrats and independents who will probably never vote Republican or Democrat, or if they do, it'll be episodic. The third leg is the old line political elected officials, and a lot of those are very much consistent with the donors and the the consultants and their philosophies. The consultants drive their campaigns, and they have a very difficult time breaking from them. And so that's why you see a lot of senators and congressmen unwilling to do anything that will appeal to the masses, like health care for all and the various other aspects of the progressive Democratic platform. They're afraid to do it because they believe that if they deviate, it'll be a problem. One last word. The reason for Gaza is very simple. Hakeem Jeffries has taken in over $1 million in the last cycle from AIPAC. Chuck Schumer takes in even more than that, and those are just the leaders. The problem is that AIPAC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Bibi Netanyahu. It is not politic for anybody that's taking money from AIPAC to acknowledge, A, that there is famine in Gaza, or B, that the bombing of Gaza is anything but self-defense for Israel. That's your problem right there. And I'll turn it over to Marie now.
Well, we had spoken extensively about the number of people who are taking money from AIPAC and also the American Israeli Education Foundation. We spoke about that a couple of weeks back, Mark. I mean, this thing has gone beyond acceptance, and I think slowly the tide is turning. A lot of my Jewish friends are so upset with what is happening. They're coming out openly and saying, this does not represent us as American Jews. We don't condone what is happening. This is Zionism, and this is not Jewish philosophy or Jewish religion or the Jews talking. And let's not forget that the ICC has gone ahead and put their foot down again on Netanyahu. So, Marie, your take.
Yeah, for me, and that's a good analysis of the money side. For me, what's really important is that folks like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries haven't talked to a voter in about 15 years, and the electorate is dramatically different. Mark tipped off to this is that there is no center. Like, in the electorate, about 60% of the electorate, people that vote, are independents or context voters. So they vote about the top three things that are bothering them at that time and place. They are no longer tethered to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party in any way. And within the 40% on both sides of that continuum, right and left, there's very few that are completely tethered. If you talk to someone under 52 right now, they don't talk about party ever. They'll say, affordability is a huge issue, housing a huge issue, I don't have health insurance. So the party leaders have not caught up to the electorate. And I talk about this in my Substack probably once a week, where if the party were to catch up to the electorate, we would be talking about different things and doing different things. And then finally, go ahead.
No, I think a lot of it has been reflected recently in what is happening in the New York mayoral primary, Marie. The younger people came out in droves for Mamdani. Yeah. And I think the legacy party leaders better hold on to their pants now, because these guys are going to get their seats kicked out from under them if they don't show up and listen to the people.
Yes, and they're not right now. That's very clearly they don't. I mean, there are leaders emerging, right? They're, whether it's AOC or Bernie, Chris Murphy, Ro Khanna, Delia Ramirez, all of those folks are rising up and understanding the voters and talking like FDR Democrats. We want all FDR Democrats. Doesn't matter. It's not about position in the party, and it's not about political leanings. It is, we need builders and fighters.
Well, let's see what Reed's take on that is. Reed, we got to listen to what you have to say, because you have been a senior party leader for a long time, and you have seen it from the inside out. Where is the rot coming in, and how do we fix it?
Well, first of all, I think that we seem to have this block about the nature of our economy. And whenever we talk about progressive economics or populist economic democracy, suddenly we have this fear of using the term socialism. Well, I have news for America. We've had a mixed economy for decades of both socialism and capitalism. And we're not all socialists. We're not a capitalist. We're a mixture of the two, and it has worked quite well for us throughout the decades. Examples of it would be the Social Security system. We have unemployment insurance. We have public schools. We have public roads. We have fire departments and police departments. These are all forms of modified socialism. And when we have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders talking about doing more of that, suddenly we got our so-called middle-of-the-road Democrats who are fearful that they're going to be painted as some kind of socialists and like, we're going to have a totalitarian state. Well, I think what we're seeing right now, folks, is we have a totalitarian state developing, and it isn't because socialism has taken stronger root in this country. It's because authoritarianism has taken root in the guise of Donald Trump and his ilk. So I think that the Democratic Party needs to understand the concept of economic populism and move back in that direction, back in the FDR direction. Otherwise, they are going to continue to lose popularity in the polls, as the polls are currently reflecting. People, the working class, want bread and butter economics, not tax cuts for the rich so that they can shift their wealth from the working class up to the very small percentage of the people here who are millionaires and multimillionaires.
And we cannot just expect to go into 2026 on this one platform of opposing Donald Trump. Yeah, people have had enough of it. They are going to oppose Donald Trump. But what the heck are you bringing to the party is what the voters are going to be asking for as we get into 2026. It's 9:32, folks. We are going to take a break, and we'll be back on the other side of the break with Maaria Mozaffar to break the echo chamber. And if you can please stay on, Mark and Marie. We definitely want to continue the conversation with Maaria also. We'll be right back after this break.
Calling all residential and commercial property owners. If you're like me, you're sick and tired of paying high electric bills, which, by the way, are on the rise. You're also probably unaware of the federal, state, and utility incentives that you qualify for. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down this number, 630-785-0031. Again, 630-785-0031. Give Greenlight a call for a no-cost, no-obligation energy assessment, and we'll show you which federal, state, and utility incentives you qualify for. Again, 630-785-0031. Give us a call, 630-785-0031.
Welcome back to the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Lightning Strike, and I'd like to bring in Maaria Mozaffar to talk about what is happening in her world now. Good morning, Maaria. Okay, waiting for Maaria to join the conversation. We also have Carl Moose that would be joining us today to talk about some of the issues that we are discussing, folks. Again, a very packed, intense show. Let's see if Maaria is on the line with us. Good morning, Maaria.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, Maaria, go ahead. Please continue.
Yes, good morning. Yeah, everything that's happening in my world is the same thing that's happening in all of your worlds, which is watching the headlines and seeing how we can actually have an impact. I want to start off by saying that we cannot have any discussion of merit regarding substantive policy that does not consistently mention the starvation in Gaza. And I want to thank everybody else for stating it. And I think that what we are seeing is the tide turning because people are understanding that dehumanization does not work for a global economy and a global consciousness. And that's what we have consistently done. So I just want us to consistently remind ourselves that our attention has to be on the starvation in Gaza and how we can stop it. Now, the reason why it's so difficult for us to understand where the Democratic Party needs to go. And what I mean by that is that people want to change the direction, but people don't know why the direction is not being changed. And that simple reason is that the flow of information and the definitions of what could change this country is kept in lock and key. And what I mean by that is, when we talk about the word socialism, and I love that Reed, you brought in that angle, there is such a aggressive response to terms that are misdefined. And I think that is really the problem with the Democratic Party right now. If they want to rehash this position now and move the party forward, they have to tell the truth on what these definitions mean. And the definition of making sure that there is fair game for people, that people have access to health care, that people are not taking the issues of public education out of the discussion of property taxes, that individuals that are incarcerated get a second chance, that food deserts are designed for big box grocers to only make money where they make money and not actually help people that need access. All of these issues are issues that you put on your agenda because you care for people that do not have access to money. And I think that is critical. So when we talk about the word socialism, I think we have to understand that the definition itself in the public domain has been defined by people that don't understand what progressive policies mean. And it would be very, very critical for the Democratic Party to start using the word that is accurate. Maybe it's not socialism. Maybe it's understanding how people are listening to the words that are coming out of these elected officials and building your own definitions. And I think, when you look at the conservative right, even if they agree with the progressive policies, they can't get themselves to because there are blocks in terminology. So I think that is very, very key. The Democratic Party has to understand what terms they're talking about, find out the words that are accurate, and explain that to the voters on both sides of the aisle. The other thing I wanted to talk about is faith-based institutions and faith-based discussions. When we saw the last election, consistently what we saw was a division between a party that is pro-faith and another party that wants to minimize faith. And I don't say that lightly, because if you look at the way legislations have been put forth that protect faith institutions or communities of faith to have access to different things, it's always the Republicans that have brought them forth. And I think that is a critical piece here. There is a large constituency within the Democratic voter base that is faith-based. And when you have those discussions, you're able with ease to talk about issues about progressive policies, because faith-based communities do delve into the discussions of the unfairness of the economic system, the unequal distribution of wealth. How do we get people to have a second chance in education despite having felony on their records? Faith-based institutions throughout history in every community have been the forefront advocates for these types of issues. So here's the thing. If you're going to talk about progressive policies and not talk about faith, you're going to create yourself a situation where the party looks like a party that's anti-faith and the Republicans are pro-faith. And that's just not reality. That's not reality on the ground. So I think that is very, very critical. Yes, go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point over there, Maaria. So let's take Mark's take on that. Mark, what do you have to say on what Maaria is saying?
Well, first of all, I agree with Marie in her discussion, Reed in her discussion. I really agree with Maaria. The issue of faith has been completely ignored. I don't know whether Democrats are afraid of it or whether there is a sense of poo-pooing it, but it's wrong. Because from a strategic point of view, you're leaving out a whole bunch of voters who look at the Democratic Party and say, these people don't believe, and we can't vote for people who don't believe. And the tragedy of it is as Marie said, there are so many Democrats who do belong to faith-based institutions, whether they're churches or whether they're organizations that do relief work, but they are they are people of faith, and you ignore them at your peril. And there's so many independents as well that fit that rubric. So to the extent that Maria has discussed this, she's absolutely right, because we are leaving a lot of people on the table, to be blunt about it.
And that's one of the things. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Maaria.
No, also I was saying, Mohammed, when we look at these, the other legislators, like we look at Congressman Ray Hanania and him getting heat for breaking from the establishment and breaking from mainstream and voting for a bill that is considered controversial. These individuals have all been approached by faith-based communities. They've been approached by faith-based communities to advocate through a moral consciousness. And so when there are elements that are trying to shift the Democratic Party and saying, listen, don't go for the strategic consultant guideline to stay away from certain hot button items, because your donors, your advisors, your people that are reaching out to you have a lot to say about your moral standing and your moral consciousness. And you can't erode that reality. So that's why when we talk about the passion and we talk about the assertiveness of the Republican voter, especially among the youth, you'll see a lot of them are designing themselves and attaching themselves as advocates of moral consciousness. They really are comfortable with their faith identity. They're comfortable with their values. They want to advocate for those. Do they represent the values that the rest of the country wants? We don't know. We don't know, right? Because the Democratic Party has not taken the other side up. And so that's what's very, very critical. When people are allowed to dominate morality based on the fact that they have the mic, the Democratic Party has to stand up and say, we have morality too. And our morality is based on a variety of faith communities that have always been the backbone and pushing us forward. We just cannot deny that.
Well, I hope that the party leadership are listening. If not, we'll make sure that they listen. We're going to send them copies of today's show, and so that we can raise some consciousness in there. Thank you, Maaria. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mark, for joining us also. I got Carl Moose on the line, and we'll take a couple of things from Carl and see what Carl's intake is before we go to. We got Cindy Soto also joining us shortly. So Cindy Soto would be joining us from the Chicago Mayor's office to talk about the homelessness program. And we will flip over to that segment in just a couple of seconds. Carl, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you today? It's a great day here in Chicago. So today I want to talk a little bit about. I mean, we touched on a little bit about just what's going on not only in this country but just globally with cybersecurity, and a big thing that people are talking about right now is blockchain and of course how that affects or how it plays into cryptocurrency, and how there's a movement away from the U.S. dollar and towards a universal currency. And a lot of people are concerned about, blockchain and cryptocurrency. So, I just want to talk about that and some of the implications. Of course, blockchain in and of itself, there's a lot of legal regulations and a lot that goes on with regard to NFTs and the decentralization of financing and how that affects things not only here in our country, but also across the globe. And, a lot of it has to do with, security, which is always a big topic. And, blockchain technology has been around for a long time, and it has a major impact on currency.
Carl, what I want to also talk about later on is campaign finance and how these new technologies are going to impact campaign finance. And I think we can have this discussion next Sunday in more detail. And today, let's go to Cindy Soto to talk about what is happening in Chicago. And Mark Mansour, thank you so much for joining us from Washington. Congresswoman Marie Newman, thank you so much for joining us. These are important conversations that we want to have, folks, and we're going to have this every Sunday. There is a possibility we may extend the show to 2 hours. So just throwing it out there. And when that happens, we can have more discussions in more details on that. I'd like to bring in Cindy Soto from the Chicago Mayor's office. And Cindy, good morning. Okay, just waiting for Cindy to join the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Mohammed.
Hey, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us. And so you are the... Let me get your title again. You are the Chief Homelessness Officer for the City of Chicago?
That is correct. I've been in this role for a little over a year, serving under the mayor's administration.
Okay, so Sandy, educate us. What does the Chief Homelessness Officer do? What is the position? Why is it important for the City of Chicago to have someone in your position to actually someone can look up to say, hey, homelessness is an issue. What is the city doing about it?
Absolutely. The mayor, through an executive order a couple of years ago, brought together this vision with philanthropy and other partners to ensure that the administration is able to really center the needs of people who are
33% of people, registered voters, to come out to vote in the primary elections. That's
hang on 1 second.
I don't know if there's actually another person speaking.
There was some other feedback coming in. About 30% of the voters. I don't know where that is struck in from.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sure. So in 2023, the mayor, through an executive order, along with philanthropy, was able to establish this role in his administration. It's the first of its kind for the city, where there is a person whose entire responsibility is to look at our unhoused population, our population that is at risk of being homeless, people who face a lot of sudden changes with their housing stability. So I'm able to coordinate really through the full force of government, which is what the mayor really considers to be the significant difference of how we can approach issues like homelessness and community safety and youth employment. Is bringing all of our city resources together to really zero in on the challenge and provide some tangible solutions. So in my time here, I've been able to coordinate an interagency task force with all of our city agencies. I've also coordinated and will soon be releasing our 5-year plan to address and prevent homelessness in the city of Chicago. And this 5-year plan has encompassed the entire city in terms of getting the right feedback and lens as to what our neighbors would like to see different out of the administration. Once the plan is released, the entire community, your community, the public at large will get a chance to see how every single community area in the city of Chicago responded to our survey. We've had over 2,500 responses, but also direct conversations with people with lived experience. And that really is what shapes this plan. So really excited to get that out there. But in the interim, a lot of the activities that we do out of the mayor's office really is about the wonderful work that our agencies are doing on the ground. And I know we're here to talk about the Shelter Infrastructure Improvement Initiative, and so just really excited to be celebrating this moment with the mayor and our colleagues across various city departments.
Well, that was one of the questions that came up in a previous show over here. Why is the city spending $40 million to upgrade homelessness shelters? Where's the money coming from? And is any other program going to be disrupted or impacted with the money being spent on this?
Yes, I'm so glad that your audience is curious about this. The $40 million is a historic investment out of the city of Chicago. It is truly the first of its kind to have this level of investment towards the shelter infrastructure system. So it's not so much the services and programs, although all of those would be enhanced along with this infrastructure project. But this is really putting together a strategy that addresses our aging facilities to ensure that people go into our homeless shelters and receive the services from our community partners, are receiving services that are in spaces that are safer, more dignified, more accessible for particularly people with disabilities and that have other needs. And so this is not going to impact additional programs. It's $40 million that's coming out of Home ARP, so the American Recovery efforts, and also local city bonds. And so we are putting forward this investment along with a couple of federal earmarks that are being stacked with some of this funding. And we also have some philanthropic partners that have joined our community partners in ensuring that the community partners can have the maximum amount of funding to really bring their shelters into our modern era. A lot of the shelters, unfortunately, may not have an elevator or a lift, or, we've learned in the pandemic having non-congregate shelters really supports people's journey to housing. So this is converting our shelter system into an environment that really inspires people and helps them maintain their hope as they continue to stabilize their housing needs.
And that is something, Sandy, that most people are not really understanding, that the homeless shelter is not a permanent shelter for people. It is a stepping stone for them to get their life together and then continue outside of the system, right?
Absolutely. Shelters, are a temporary relocation, and to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring, we have to create spaces where people have the hope to continue with their housing journey. In addition to the shelter system, there's been an incredible amount of investments into permanent, affordable housing. That is truly the answer to solving homelessness, is ensuring that people have access to stable housing that meet their needs, that are in community areas, that are resource-rich for them, that connect them to their social safety net. And so we've been investing in the administration with a lot of different opportunities that really hone in on the larger picture, which is how do we increase housing affordability in the city of Chicago. So this shelter investment is part of the housing continuum for somebody who is facing that type of housing insecurity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. That is Sandy Soto, Chief Homelessness Officer for the City of Chicago. We'll continue the conversation on the lightning strike. Sandy, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely reach back out to you for updates. So today's show, folks, again, time is so critical for us, and the time just flies. It's 9:52, and we have still our Person of the Week segment to finish off the show today. And let us see what Dr. Sheila White has got for us this week. She's always bringing in some awesome guests, and if you'd like to be featured as a guest on our Person of the Week, please do reach out to us. You can go to the website and send in a request through the website, and Dr. White will definitely reach out to you and feature you also on our show. Let's go into our Person of the Week segment, Dylan. Okay, and you are tuned in to the Lightning Strike, the number to call in, or you can even text us, 773-763-9278, if you want to join the conversation. And listen, this is so critical for us to have a voice that is not sold out to any corporate interest. So if you would like to support the show also, please go to our website, tlschicago.com, and send in your love, and we'll see how we can continue the conversations. We are ready for our Person of the Week segment now.
Hello, team. Our Person of the Week is Brian McIntyre from Audio High Podcasting Studio, located in Cresthill, Illinois.
Actually, our
Brian, welcome to the Lightning Strike. Brian, I want to know what inspired you to open a podcast studio?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, first of all, thanks for inviting me on. This is awesome. I've never been on the radio before, so very cool. I got into podcasting probably in 2008, 2009, just as a listener.
Yeah.
And I really liked it because I could find in-depth topics.
Can you hear it now, Mom?
Nope, I can't hear
particularly
anything.
around like audio engineering, when there wasn't like a lot of resources outside of school,
on the Facebook feed.
outside of going to college for this stuff.
Yeah.
But then more recently, I would say probably around 2016, 2017, I was working at Guitar Center, as you know. And there was just started to be an increase in people coming in wanting to start a podcast that just had zero audio technology background. So the big difference being, everybody else that came in had a music background. If a guitar player came in, or a singer, or a keyboard player, or drummer, and said, hey, I want to record myself, most of them have been around this stuff before. They've seen a microphone. They might know what an XLR cable is. With the podcast people that were coming in, just zero music technology background. And so many people were spending a couple $100 on a basic recording setup and just going nowhere with it.
Wow.
Not recording a single episode and getting frustrated and, either returning the stuff a week later or 29 days later, a day before the end of the return period, or they would never return it and they just kind of threw away the money and never got anything for it. So I started to get the idea that, hey, for a couple $100, if you're just trying to get your feet wet and try it out, I can do something really nice for you. And so that was the initial idea, and it's just been growing since. I opened in 2019.
What are some of the biggest challenges facing podcasting, as well as in the industry? You mentioned sometimes people are wasting money, but what are some of the biggest challenges in the industry?
Yeah, so beyond the getting started part, which we handle, we pretty much do everything for you. You just have to kind of come up with the content, and give us some creative feedback. But beyond that, everybody's biggest thing is like getting discovered. How do we find out? How do we make it? And a lot of that comes down to defining like what your idea of success is. Not everybody can be, a podcast that has millions of subscribers. And that's just one kind of success. The vast majority of my podcasts are not in here trying to, reach 1 million people. They'd be happy to, but it was never the goal. And those are the ones that have been here for years. So definitely it's finding the motivation to stay into it and starting it for the right reason.
Now, what advice would you give someone that wants to start a podcast? Because there's so many people that are listening to podcasts and they think it's so easy, but what are some of the things that you would give advice to people that are just kind of getting started, getting their feet wet with it?
Yeah, so if you can record, the first thing is to just, I would say, have an outline for your show. Some of the burnout that I see, or when people fizzle out, it's because they think they can just kind of walk in and they're going to be able to talk for an hour about something. And a lot of people don't, I think, realize how much planning goes into a podcast. All of my successful longtime clients have been organized from the get-go. They come in, they have show outlines, they have a list of topics to keep them on track. They're cognizant of their time. And I would say that's the biggest one, is actually putting some thought into it and not going into it with some idea that you're just a natural public speaker and that you can talk for hours, unprompted. I think that's the biggest thing is people get, they just kind of get lost in their own conversation. And they'll talk for an hour, but ended up saying nothing. If that makes sense.
What satisfies you about working at a podcast studio? Because it's your studio. You've had it for a number of years now. What are some of the joys and things you enjoy about podcasting and working with clients?
The biggest thing, it is really fulfilling and gratifying. Some of the
It's going to be a little bit longer than what we had planned for. We've got 2 minutes to finish off the show, and I would like to really acknowledge today that we had some of the biggest thought leaders, I would say, in the Democratic Party today joining us. Mark Mansour from Washington, Congresswoman Marie Newman, of course, our own Maaria Mozaffar, Read Bible, and also Carl Moose joined us on the show today. Ken DeLuke could not be on the show with us today, and Ken will be back next week. And if you would like to join the conversation, again, the number to call in is always 773-763-9278. We got 2 minutes to finish off the show today. And you can reach us also through the website, TLS for The Lightning Strike, Chicago.com. TLSchicago.com is the best way to send a message out to us. And the thing that we really, really have to focus on today, folks, is that we have something called as social media that is taking over from the legacy media now. And as long as we stay silent, we are going to be complicit. So if you see something bad happening, raise your voice. Join the conversation. Do not sit back at home. And we have the midterm elections coming up. Make sure